Right, you lot, welcome back. So since I touched on this in my Q&A video, a few people requested that I go into a little bit more detail about how I organise and plan and structure my days to stay on top of the various things that I have going on, like running this YouTube channel, writing my blog, making and selling art, my proper job, and trying to have a social life in there as well. So my planner system tends to change quite a bit, but the general structure stays the same, these sort of tiers of yearly, monthly, weekly, daily, even hourly planning and goal setting. So I will take you through my current plan in a second, but first I thought I would show you how I use my bullet journal. Right, so I'm quite sure that you all know what a bullet journal is, but if not, then I will leave a link on screen and also in the description of the video that goes through it all. But basically, this book acts as a sort of hub of all my thoughts and tasks and goals and ideas, any information that's in my head that I need to remember. Because the best way for me to feel like I'm organised and I have things under control is to basically write down every single thing straight away, get it out of my head and onto paper, just so I don't feel like I'm clinging on to 100 thoughts at once. And then also to have those thoughts broken down and set out in a way that's easy to go back on and review. So this is one book that holds all your lists, shopping, to-do lists, books to read, stuff like that, and can also be shaped to act as more of a sort of planner with like daily and weekly spreads as well. So taking a look at mine in more detail, I have this sort of future log which acts as a year at a glance, where I write down things like birthdays, goals and deadlines, any plans that I have coming up that I definitely need to remember but aren't necessarily relevant right now. Then it's narrowed down into a monthly calendar where I write in any of those things from the future log, as well as things like lunch dates or nights out that I have coming up. I also set goals for the month and just make sure that I refer back to that basically every night when I'm planning my next day, just to make sure that I am A, staying on track with everything that's coming up, and B, doing something every day that's going to bring me closer to my goals. Then we get to the weekly spreads. I've always been a fan of the week on 2 pages sort of setup, because I think it helps to keep things in perspective, what you've done and what you need to do in relation to different days of the week. And having your whole week all together helps to keep a sort of balance so that certain days aren't really busy with other days being really uneventful. So this is what my weeks used to look like with a vertical layout. Now I do things a little bit differently. So my new weekly layout has a sort of dashboard that features the sort of daily routine things that I do on that day specifically every week. So for example, every Thursday I always aim to wash all my clothes, deep clean my bathroom, do some exercise and pin some relevant images on Pinterest. This weekly dashboard is a great way for me to make sure that I'm posting to certain social media platforms a certain number of times every week, or it would be if I could actually keep up with it. I also have a section for general things that are coming up this week, any sort of daily habits that I want to keep track of, like making sure I drink water every day and take my vitamins, a little section to write about what's coming up next week, maybe a birthday that I want to remember or anything that I didn't get finished this week. And also a little section where I can write about something that I'm grateful for that week. And then a typical week looks something like this, so it's broken down into days, and this is where it sort of performs more as a traditional bullet journal, where it's like a flowing to-do list that I will either write the night before or the morning of that day, any task that I need to get done. And I also sometimes will add a little bit of writing, sort of a diary of things that happened that day if I found something really interesting that I want to remember. And that's basically it for day-to-day organisation in my bullet journal. But I did also use this, as I said, for basically everything. So I have things in here like books to read, my shopping wish list, any random things that I wanted to note down, and also to track my finances and savings, which I actually have a blog post about if you want to look at that in more detail. I will link that on screen and in the description of this video. Now this system worked great for me for about a year and a half. Only recently did I sort of look into switching it up a bit. I loved the yearly, weekly, monthly spreads, stuff like that, but I wanted to break my days down even more, basically by the hour, because I think as someone that works from home half the week, I just needed a little bit more structure, like that sort of timetable structure that you have at school. It's really easy to write out a to-do list, but then not actually think about the amount of time that you're going to need for each individual task, and not sort of think about the order that you're going to be doing things in. So you might find yourself prioritizing watching Prison Break for 5 hours over actually doing stuff that you need to do. Yeah, we all need to stare at Wentworth Miller for several hours a day. So I wanted to keep all the features of my bullet journal, but incorporate a schedule. And I considered using the two systems side by side, so keeping up with my bullet journal and then having a separate planner that was like a daily planner. And I looked into the Happy Planner and the Day Designer, and they were really strong contenders, but being the cheapskate that I am, I did decide that I would just make my own planner. So this is it. It was really easy to make. I basically just put together some really basic printables on Word. I cut them down to size. I got the cover and wire binding of an old sketchbook and cut those down to size and basically just looped it all in. And then I painted on the front what was supposed to be a marble design and added this gold sort of, what's the word? Engraving of my logo. And basically, since I was making my own planner from scratch, I decided that all the spreads that were in my bullet journal I could basically recreate in here, and I wouldn't need to use both of them together. Monogram, that's the word I was looking for. So the only thing that's different here is that I've taken away my weekly dashboard and instead have a page at the beginning of every month that tells me all the things I should be doing on certain days, plus a daily scheduled page which breaks down specific days into a certain structure. And it's not completely filled out yet, so just to explain better how I do use these pages, I will show you how I planned today. Earlier this morning I actually filmed it so that you could see what my planning looks like. So first I checked the month at a glance to see if there was anything coming up that I'd forgotten about. Then I used the weekly schedule page to look at the things that I would usually be doing on a Wednesday. Then going back to my daily page, I wrote out a list of all the things that I wanted to get done that day. And then looking back at my daily schedule page as a reference, I mapped out my day by the hour. I also add those daily habits, and then at the end of the day I will note down anything that happened that was worth noting down that day. I do also have a journal so I can get into a bit more detail about that stuff, and then I will also write down something that I'm grateful for that day. And this might seem a bit overly complicated compared to my last system, but I found that I like mapping out my day from scratch the night before or the morning of. It helps to keep things feeling a bit more organic, because obviously I do have the same sort of plan day to day and week to week, the same sort of structure. I could probably get away with having the same weekly schedule just repeated, but when things are mapped out like that, it just starts to feel like I'm going through the motions. I get quite bored of it. So being able to write things out every single day just keeps things feeling fresh, it keeps things feeling more organic. But an easier alternative to making your own planner, because I know it's a bit extra, would be to get something like this. Now this is just a basic daily planner. You can get it from places like W.H. Smith's, Paper Chase, Staples. What shops do you have in the States? Michael's, is that a stationery shop? I don't know. Basically any stationery shop you can get just a plain diary, and what you would do is, or what I would do with this is, because it's got the plain page, I could just write my to-dos on this side, I could write my schedule on this side, and I do think that I will find a way to incorporate this into my system somehow, because I like it, as if I need another planner. Yeah, but back to my homemade planner, I also have a work section where I keep things like my finances, passwords, contacts, and also a schedule of blog posts and videos that I'll have coming up for the next 2 months. Plus, in this section and my normal section, I have a page called Brain Dump, where I will just write down any little thoughts and things that pop into my head that I need to get down but don't necessarily have a specific place. And lastly, I thought I'd mention this app, and I'll try and leave a link for it below. There's a free version and a pro version. I have the pro version. I can't remember exactly how much it costs, but it can't have been that much because I'm not one to spend a lot of money on apps. And I basically would use this in conjunction with my other planners. So I actually have all those tasks mapped out by the hour, and alerts would go off to tell me what to do, when to do it. But as I said, having those sort of generated alerts at the same time every single day, it just got a bit stagnant and I just didn't really pay attention to it. But I still use this app as a sort of backup for things that come up maybe every few months, like backing up my computer, which I actually need to do today, and also things like birthdays, because you can set like a few alerts to go off before something happens. So maybe one to go off 2 days before something happens, another one to go off the day before the thing happens, and then maybe another one on the day that it's happening, like an hour before. So you're always aware, you're always prepared, and things don't creep up on you out of nowhere. So that's it, guys. Hopefully there's at least something in here that you can sort of take and shape and mix up to use in a way that suits you. Honestly, there's no better feeling than feeling like you've got everything under control. So even if this is all a bit much, at least, I don't know, write everything down on a sticky note. Alright, have a nice weekend, you lot. I will see you on Tuesday. Bye.